Hi guys.
Hello.
Happy Friday. This is Eugene and Andrea, your relationship strategist, helping you navigate, the builder and the educator.
No, say it how you gonna say it.
We put it on the world,
You're recording.
I know.
So what are you talking about? I'm just confused.
And we put it on so everybody can see it.
Yes.
The world. Okay.
It's public.
The public. Okay.
Yeah. So you're still talking.
Hey Becky.
Hey, so.
Okay. So we're gonna start that over.
Yeah. Oh my God.
This is
Are you kidding me?
Yes.
This is live.
This is Eugene and Andrea, your relationship strategist, the builder and the educator, helping you navigate life's most important goal, your relationship.
Your relationship.
Yes. And today's power couple quickie is
You are in a special place.
Yes, I am. Today's power couple quickie is
dignity of labor.
The dignity of labor,
yep.
Embracing your triple threat.
Right.
So
finding the dignity.
Yeah, finding the dignity in labor. Hey Becky, how are you doing? Yes.
What's that all about?
So we were talking a few days ago, or maybe last week, about rebounding, right, and taking your shot, having a resiliency, right, for yourself and for your your legacy, right, for your children. And so we wanted to come back and speak to you all again as it relates to this thing of the triple threat.
Hey,
right?
Ida, hey, Lacey.
The triple threat, and the title of this particular power couple cookie, which is the
finding the dignity in labor.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Finding the
you are the hotness tonight.
Exactly.
It's okay.
I know it is.
I'm gonna help you. I got you.
Thank you, baby.
I got you.
Finding the dignity in labor. So, hey Maureen, how you doing? Hey Ida.
Top.
So what we were trying to build and dig out of this thing is talking about the resiliency in what it is that is important, right? And that is honing into this triple threat thing that we're talking about: the head knowledge, the hands, the heart, and the hands,
yep.
And being able to pass on
head, heart, and hands.
Head, heart, hands. Passing on these kind of things, these particular attributes, not only for yourself but for the next generation.
Can I say something?
Sure can.
So one of the biggest things about it, I think one of the most dynamic things regarding the title is that sometimes, and especially nowadays, I have my doctorate, my husband has his MBA, and sometimes especially nowadays, we somehow empower more or think more highly of the person that uses their brain to do something more than we think of the person that uses their hands. Hey,
Thank
Jill.
You. Yes.
Hey, Jamal. We think more highly of them.
Yes.
But there's a dignity in labor.
Yes.
There's a dignity in knowing how to work with your hands.
Yes.
And we're not saying, because we value education so highly. I mean, just ask our kids.
Right.
But in valuing our education, we are also telling them and teaching them how to work with their hands.
That's right.
And how to connect with people. Hey, James.
So I wanted to add on to what you were saying. There was a disconnect, right, within the culture of and where we live, and that we lost.
A bug flew in my mouth. Keep going. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm like.
Okay. There was a disconnect. From understanding the importance of working, with our hands. And so,
Booker T.
Yeah, so Booker T. Washington, had a very important point, when he was, influencing, that it had to deal with, it was nothing wrong with working the land. It was nothing wrong with working with your hands. And people were, from all cultures, were running away from working, with your hands because of the negative stigma that was placed on this particular country. And so we want to, hey, what's up, James? We want to talk to you.
Thank you. But comment on that, because Booker T. Washington was the founder of Tuskegee University.
Yes, he was.
And he emphasized, this is our alma mater. This is where we attended. This is where we come from.
Yes.
And when we were there, we always understood. And James is at school with our son Imani right now.
Yes.
Hey, Kimberly. Hey, Ulysses, there's a dignity that he talked about. He said that, what did he say in Up From Slavery? He said that people had lost
they lost their dignity of labor.
Right. Like somehow to moving on up means I don't have to work with my hands.
Right.
People looking at your hands. Do you have calluses on your hand? As if that's a bad thing. As if that speaks lowly of you. That's not true.
That's not, because it's so important, because again, there is a focus and an importance for a liberal education. There is an importance for a connection in people. But when we're talking about sustaining our lives, sustaining our culture, sustaining our way of life, we do have to have that triple threat, right? Working with our hands, being able to pass down skills to the next generation, to be able to, what we say, feed yourself, to be able to clothe yourself, to be able to shelter yourself, and to be able to heal yourself.
Say it again.
Be able to feed yourself, clothe yourself, shelter yourself, and heal yourself. Being able to work on the land, in the land, these indigenous perspectives that we talk about, so that you can actually sustain, life, and be able to hold on to those things that are real important. So yes, having an education is very important.
Yes, it is.
Having heart education, being able to connect with people, but even more, there is a dignity that we have to bring back.
And Booker T. Washington believed that as long as we had a skill and were able to work with our hands, that we would always be able to provide for our families. He believed that, and he promoted that. And of course, there's this whole thing between what he believed and promoted and W.B. Du Bois. But right now, in the place that we're in right now, to have to know, like, one of the things that I love about him is that, and I hope me as well, we both value these skills.
Yes,
we both value being able to connect our hands to something.
Yes.
Because those services, people will always need that. But as long as we look down on that, what it really means is that we have become dependent on people. Okay?
Very good point.
I mean, whether it's feed yourself. It's one thing to choose, hey, I want to go out to eat. It's another thing to not know how to grow your food or know how to prepare your food for your family.
Yes.
There is one thing to have options. It's another thing to be dependent. And a lot of times we're getting lost because we are so dependent on people to take care of us. I was going to say something about the birth, but you can go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I got lost in my train of thought 2 or 3 of these episodes ago.
Yes.
I forget what we were talking about.
We're talking about rebounding.
And I was talking about that for me, I looked down on the fact that there were people that, I didn't want to work in birth. And I'm just going to be honest. I didn't want to work in birth. I went and I educated myself for a reason. I did not want to connect myself directly with something that I knew that there were some people, and I've heard some people say things. There was a woman who said to me one time, I would love to have a big black woman take care of me while I was birthing. Dr. Mason, I've been dismissed from rooms as if I was the hired help. And I don't mean in respectful, like, oh, thank you so much. It was like, okay, you can go now. From a hospital, it didn't feel, I was like, I don't want anything to do with this. I don't want to be connected to this. I don't want to, whatever. Hey, Adrian, I don't want to be connected to that disrespect.
Right.
I don't want to be connected to that. Here I helped you and done whatever, and you're talking about what you would love for a big black woman to take care of you while you were in labor? What can I do with those words?
Right. Very good.
Oh my goodness. But then, I did walk away from it, actually. I stopped dealing with birth for about 2 years. And then I came back to it because it was calling me. And what I realized was that and I think this is relevant for a lot of people.
Please.
There are some families where there's a skill that's been passed down in the family.
Yes.
Hey, Elizabeth, there's a skill that's been passed down. There's carpentry, or there's key making, or a restaurant, whatever. And sometimes there's such a fight to get away from those things because it doesn't feel like, and I don't want to be like this. I don't want to, I'm not saying that any of us, thank you. I know bugs coming for me. I'm not saying that we shouldn't aspire to more. Like I said, I have a doctorate, he has an MBA.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also the context of these hands.
Yes.
Okay? Talking about catching these hands.
You know what? And it's a good point, because we're talking about gathering and working. And I think this is an indigenous principle, that we're gathering and working the skills together, in harmony, right? And, when you're talking about, your experience, with birth, I had that similar experience, and the reason why I majored what I did when I was in college, because I thought it was looked down upon to be a construction laborer or to be in construction.
Even though that you love working with your hands.
I love working with my hands, but I wanted to be, I thought I wanted to be an architect, and so even though I'm still working in the building industry, I looked down on that, and it's been a beautiful experience for me, in working with multi-million-dollar projects and managing them from the field perspective. And so, hey, Becky, so it is so important as we talk about understanding, your triple threat.
Yeah.
Is that there is a value with combining your head knowledge with your heart knowledge and your hand knowledge, because when you bringing those things together from that indigenous standpoint and working them all together, then I believe that's where that sustainability comes in affecting the relationship between you and your spouse, and between your co-workers, and between especially your children, to get that particular culture to the next generation, those particular things.
Can I read Becky?
Sure.
Now, Becky, we went to the Dominican Republic last year this time. In a few days, we would have been planning to go to the Dominican Republic. And Becky said, your loving presence, felt through your touch, as you lay hands on mamas you help during labor, is healing.
Yes.
Yes. And I just love you to bits and pieces, Becky. I haven't seen you since we got back from the Dominican Republic. Becky was the one that was even encouraging me, like when I was there. She said, come stand here. Come watch this. She's a midwife. And she was saying, hey, cousin. She's a midwife, and is like, let me, come watch this. Do you see what they're doing? She was, I call it reintroducing me to things, because spiritually I feel like there's this bigger realm where, especially when people talk about mortality rates among Black women, that because it was only 50 or 60 years ago that we had to heal ourselves, as Becky mentioned.
Yes.
It's been so recent. I feel like she was helping me introduce some things to me. So, thank you, Becky.
Yes, and Elizabeth is saying, my mom's tile guy has a master's, right?
Come on now.
Education isn't always about your career. It's about living your purpose.
Absolutely.
And I really enjoy that, because, it was just coming to me, as we was talking about, this particular thing, working, let me make sure I had this particular point.
Okay.
Working with your hands is so very important as you combine your head, your education with your heart. Those three ideas being aligned again is what and how you transfer. Now, that point I was making was talking about sustainability.
Yeah.
Even in construction industry.
Yeah.
There are a lot of silos when you deal with the building industry. You have the HVAC systems, and you have the electrical system, and then you have the skin of it, all these different systems working independently. But it's so important that when you construct these particular buildings and these particular urban with urban planning and all the such, there is an importance to be sustainable about the whole operation, and you need to do that with individuals who understand the concept of working with your head, heart, hands.
Absolutely.
Because you can't just be head-minded.
You just can't.
And skills, because you forget about the other systems in our ecosystem that work together.
And it's just theory-minded. It's like, well, I heard that if you touch here and touch here, but you've never felt a heartbeat before. So you've never actually touched anything. You're just going based on your head knowledge.
Yes.
I mean, you could have never told me that I would work hard to get my doctorate and then feel that the most important thing that I could do would be to teach women about birth. You could never have told me, you could have never convinced me that I would work that hard to do something that it does not require my degree. you could not have told me. But in the end, that is the thing that is purpose for me.
Yes.
That is the thing that is driving me.
Yes.
And it requires me, as I say, I talked to someone who is having her second baby, and she's like, I want you to work with me again. And I told her, I say, yes, I tell everybody all the time about how I've stood in the shower. You might not have been fully clothed, but I was, and that's what made you feel good. And so it's like, here I am. She wanted this touch. She wanted these hands. She wanted to feel this. And working with my hands is an honorable thing.
That's right.
It's an honorable thing.
What James is saying? It says that don't work.
You got to get dirty.
That's right. You
got to get dirty. And you know you're at Tuskegee, okay?
Yes.
At Tuskegee, they're going to make sure you get dirty.
Exactly.
You got to work, brother. You're not going to just make it through.
And James, I wanted to add to that. It's like, again, working with your hands, your heart in hand, that triple threat. That is going to be provide you with the resourcefulness that you need in order to assist you to get into the different levels of your profession or your influence. And so it's so important that getting dirty, right? Getting dirty, deep down dirty into your craft.
Yes.
That, everything that...
Keep going.
I'm seeing you jumping over there. Getting deep down into your craft and actually provide you the influence, the affluence, and that channel, right? To give you that channel to get to where you need to go to assist you in your development, right?
And I was going to say, this is like the last thing, and check this out. When you are not afraid of these hands, talk about catching these hands, they're going to catch these hands. Make some folks catch these hands. What can you do with your hands? What is it that makes you stand out? Because that's what it does. When you are not afraid to connect with this earth in some kind of way.
Yes.
When you're not afraid, whether it's touching people, touching the ground and understanding the trees,
right.
or working and mending and building, when you're not afraid, it makes you unique. It makes you special. It makes you stand out.
That's right.
And it makes you that triple threat, because there are a lot of people that are walking around that have focused so much on head knowledge that has not yet been practically applied to people.
Good. Very good.
And that is what makes, when we can connect to that. The economies of old were always exchanges. Mm-hmm. They were always exchanges of some kind.
The indigenous, yep.
Yeah, so that's just what I wanted to say.
That's good stuff.
That makes you unique. That makes you stand out. That's your superpower.
That's right.
Got a superpower.
Embracing that triple threat.
Yes.
What you good at.
Boom. Superpower.
Wow. So thanks.
Superpower. Yes.
Superpower.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
We appreciate you guys.
Thanks for being on here, James.
Thank you, James. You guys have a great night.
Thanks so much. Mwah. Love you. Bunches of honey bunches of oats. Bye.
Bye.